Hey guys, I'm Joshua. Welcome back to the Year 13 Expo. When it comes to different career pathways in the music industry, there's no better individual to chat with than Melody Forghani. As the Director of Independent Artist Management and Publicity Company 23, Melody manages artists like Valis Alps and handles PR for icons Alice Ivy, Joji, Daniel Caesar, Pablo Vittar and Travis Scott, to name a few. And if that's not enough, she's co-programmed the largest music conference in the Southern Hemisphere, BIGSOUND, and has been a producer at Sydney's FBI radio for 9 years. Thanks so much for stopping by, Melody, and having a chat on the couch.
No worries, you make me sound way better than I am, but love it.
The accolades are all here. The proof is in the pudding.
I wrote the bio, I mean.
Awesome. So I'd love to just chat to you about, your high school experience and also your transition from high school into like where you are now. But I think the first question to, kick it off with is telling us about, your high school experience and how your journey was in high school.
Yeah, I went to Cheltenham Girls High School, lived in the suburbs my whole life, and I really enjoyed school, but I also didn't really have any subjects that I felt super passionate about. I love music and have always loved music, and grew up with a sister and family, cousins and things that were much older, so they were always sharing new music with me, but I wasn't that great at music. I spent a lot of time growing up started doing trumpet, parents made me quit, flute, everything, and ended up doing piano for a while, but I think just felt like I preferred to listen to other people than be the one to make it. Like to have a bit of an understanding of it and, can do the basics, but yeah, it really quickly kind of felt like it just wasn't something for me, but I still really cared about music, and it was always a really big part of my life. And yeah, so I kind of was in this weird crossroads where I knew that I wanted to do something with music, didn't know what roles existed, like the idea of publicity or management or publishing labels. I didn't know any of that kind of stuff, but just knew that I liked music. So I kind of was just finishing high school, hoping something would come up. And then just towards the end of my schooling experience, this girl came in to our school in our grade, and we got along really well. And she was like this, cool girl from the city. She used to go to school in the city, and not that Cheltenham's like that daggy or anything, but I'd never even really been to the city. I grew up in like the suburbs and and I think we once as a family went to the fireworks. So she came in and she was like, yeah, I know I have this friend who works at a radio station, and I remember like after she told me that, I really spent ages thinking about it, and I'd just kind of go on the website and I'd be like, oh cool, and then one day I like put it on and heard my friend's friend on, and I was like, oh wow, like it just feels so accessible. And I basically asked my parents to drive me to the station, and they, I turned up at the front and just like had no plan, but I was like, can I volunteer? And it was a different time there where it was maybe a little bit more casual, and or maybe I was really charming, I don't know, but they let me start volunteering here and there, and then that kind of just opened me up to a whole nother world of the music community that exists, and the strength of the local community as well, and also started my love for radio, which then kind of right at the perfect time opened my eyes up to subjects like media, or degrees like media and arts and radio and stuff as well. So yeah, that kind of led me to have a rough idea of the kind of degree I wanted. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of other people have this experience, but when you come from a background of, parents who, like our family were immigrants, and, they have high hopes for the career that you have. And I was definitely very unsure, didn't have any examples of anybody that worked in media or music. My mum didn't even know what media was. And when I was like, I'm going to apply for media and arts, and she was like, what? So it was definitely a bit of a risk and not a popular decision in my family for a while, but I think, it became very clear that it was just something I cared about more than anything else, and that was what felt right about it.
Yeah, so defining like that whole passion for like you said, when you got to the radio and started volunteering. How old were you, by the way, when you started volunteering?
I don't know. How old are you when you're like year 12?
I think
Whenever
like
that was.
17, I think.
Yeah. I was a younger, maybe like 16 or 17.
Yeah. Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like the way, I guess, like you kind of identified like, I have an interest in this, and like you propelled yourself forward and put you in a situation where you can actually gain an understanding and like enhance your passion, and like it's kind of fueled like your path. I think that's really inspiring. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome. You touched on also, it helped you gain an understanding of the degree you want to do, which was like media and stuff like that. So what were some of the things, I guess, going, into uni? Was it sort of how you imagined? Like, did it translate?
Not at all, honestly. It was so basic.
Right.
I think a lot of the, and I mean, it was actually a brand new course that year. There wasn't even a mark for it. And so it was kind of like a bit of a mishmash of like what an arts degree is with a touch of media. And I found that actually like the classes weren't necessarily super helpful always, but the people that I met were actually way more interesting and genuinely turned into work and clients down the line, like not immediately after, but, I would spend like some lectures, I'd leave those and me and my friend would go and sit like on the bleachers or whatever, and he'd play me his demos and I'd be like, oh, that's so cool. But yeah, and then that guy ended up being in a band that when I had my first full-time job in music, I ended up doing the PR for totally by chance. So yeah, it was kind of those things that meant more to me, especially because I was at FBI as well. I had a pretty good insight into what buttons to press and how to record things, and I'd listened to a lot of radio documentaries and things like that. So I felt like my understanding of those things was probably just at a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say advanced, but it wasn't new to me.
Yeah.
So I think it was hard because, and the way that semesters are worked out and like your ability to get into certain subjects and that kind of thing isn't always straightforward. Like maybe a class is full, maybe they only offer it in this semester. So by the end of it, by the end of my degree, I ended up doing like blah, 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 101. And then at the end of the year doing 102, and, it was like editing on iMovie instead of even being able to open up Final Cut, for example. So I think it was just a lot more basic than I thought. And I started to really understand the value of actual experience, and understanding the reality of how things work really came from some of the more dedicated teachers that wanted to tell you those things, but you kind of had to like give a little to get that extra insight, or you had to go out of the degree and actually like search for the things that you found interesting. And I was really lucky that I already had FBI, which connected me to so many other things and so many other people that it was almost like uni was supplementary to the volunteering that I was doing.
Yeah. That's sick. So I guess like, the idea of the degree isn't necessarily, like the highlight of what you get by the end of it. It's what you make the most out of the things you do, whether it be internally or like externally from the degree as well, like you said. Like work experience. So you think that's like heaps valuable? Yeah,
definitely. Something that I remember someone telling me before I started uni was, no one cares like if you finish your assignment or if you understand or like any of that, because you still have to pay, and then you just have to do it again if you fail, unless you drop out. So it's kind of, a thing where unless you are actually interested and put in the time and make it worth your while, it probably just isn't going to be worth your while. But at the same time, I think I was always just very ambitious as a kid. not a kid, a teenager, and wanted more. So I was always looking out for more, and I found that I'm also maybe just someone that learns better by doing and seeing examples of it rather than reading about it. And I'm pretty impatient. I'm not very studious. So I think as much as I wanted to be, things didn't click for me unless I did them and made mistakes and went on. And the degree was kind of more so I could tick it off, which in hindsight, if I hadn't have done my degree, I think I would have been just fine. But I think there would have probably been like some shame, shame from the family, or like, it's what is kind of expected. So you feel like you have to do it. In saying that, if I probably came in with a different attitude when I did come in, I might have come into it differently. I was also probably really burnt out from year 12 because they, depending on your school and in your environment, they really make it feel like, it's all or nothing. There's no future unless you get the exact mark that you need. And, I got a mark that, like, someone asked me the other day and I was like, oh.
Someone asked you?
Yeah, like it came up in a casual social conversation where everyone was like, oh, what did you get?
Oh,
and I was like, it took me a while to remember.
Yeah.
And then I just realized like I spent the entire, 2 years, like 11 and 12, obsessing over the mark. And then it ended up being so insignificant for this kind of field. Like, I'm sure doctors and lawyers and all these things, like it's not for the people that are interested in those fields. But I think with anything creative, you have to be a bit creative with how you get to where you want to be. Very cheesy, but it's true.
But it is true. It holds a sentiment. Yeah, it definitely does. So I think you answered a lot of questions within that in terms of like passion and how you went about chasing your passion. And it was all very inspiring in terms of you're an ambitious person. You went out and you got stuff done pretty much, and like you made the most of your experiences, which is so cool. We've got a couple of questions actually from the audience that they sent in to us, if you don't mind me asking. You've already asked, I guess, like in the music industry, how important is experience to you?
I think it's more valuable than anything else. I think probably the only other valuable thing is knowing someone to help you get your foot in the door. But experience is kind of, I think about it as like the reality of what you're going into. So you can kind of test the waters and dip your, toe in, or whatever the phrase is, and get a sense of what it's actually like. Because there's no harm in having that experience and then going back and deciding whether it's right for you. But also, the more you ask people, the more they want to give back too. So I feel like oftentimes at the beginning, and even actually to this day, if I look at someone or a company that I really admire, I'll usually try and like email them and go and have a coffee with them and ask them about their steps in their career. And people love to talk about themselves, but also, often it can be such a thankless, like, there's no identity attached to what you're doing. No one kind of necessarily knows it's you. So being asked about that is really reassuring that what you're doing is seen. So I think like even the experience could just be a conversation, but conversation might be a lot more direct to the questions that you have and that kind of thing. But then also, people need help. There's a lot of opportunities and experiences to trial out. And
I think that's also another good point to also talk about. The experiences within the field aren't necessarily people that are like, are the forefront of the music career. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes work in like the music career. Like, is there some like careers or like professions that you can like just list off your head that like fit within the music industry but aren't necessarily like the producers or like the singers or? Yeah,
totally. It was such a shock when I started because I was like, what is this? I mean, like you have the artist might have a producer, they'll have the person that is the mix engineer, the vocal engineer, once it's all done, the mix engineer, the master engineer, And then you have maybe a manager, you might have a publicist, you might have multiple publicists in different territories, and a lot of artists do, well, most artists that are doing it for their full-time work do. You'll have maybe a publisher, you might have a booking agent, again with similar to publicists, you'll probably have a booking agent for different territories. Then there's like a record label. In that, there's so many roles. There's, marketing managers, social media managers. I'm sure there's probably now like a TikTok person.
Yeah.
But then like the business side of things, the financial side of things, accounting side of things, like even if you have a passion for numbers, but you also love music, there's probably a role for you there as well. But then there's like, it kind of just keeps extending. Like if you want a music video, then you got to get a director, all the other video things.
So it's pretty much like any sort of industry, I guess, can sort of fit within music. The one underlying theme, I guess, is like just a passion for like music, essentially.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, mad. Someone else asked as well, how did you go about starting your own label 23?
Yeah, it's interesting because you say label, but it's not a label.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. But it's actually really common for people to say that because label can seem so like it's kind of vague, but also, yeah, like the different company names and stuff can be confusing too. But yeah, I started, was the question why I started or how I started? How? Yeah, cool. Well, I was working as a publicist at another company. And came in to meet two people through really strange circumstances, very like a lot of serendipity in the process of putting it together. But they were like, hey, you're the only person I know that works in music. How do you get your music on Spotify? And I was like, well, I don't know. Let me find out. Helped them with that. And yeah, from there, they kind of started to put together a bit of a launch. They're a group that never existed before. They had no digital footprint. And once they took their music live, it just kind of went viral. And they started asking me all these different questions that some I knew the answer to, some I didn't. They were kind of like, we're getting emails from lawyers, we're getting emails from publishers, what's a label, what's this? And I literally would like go into their email and like create a spreadsheet, and it was like this tab was lawyers, and I put all the names down and their websites and explain what that was, and then do that for everything else. And I kind of started organically managing them. Then it came to like having an actual conversation about it, and through many kind of months of talking through it, I took it to my boss at the time and was like, so what do you think? And I think through talking through the options, it just didn't make sense for me to stay and be able to, do what I wanted to do under the guidance of somebody else, because a really amazing thing that I really admire about that whole experience and the two people in that band was they're like extremely fiercely independent, and I've always really struggled with just accepting the norms of certain industries or just anything, and often the companies that I worked for culturally just didn't feel right. I'm a really sensitive person as well, and there were just things where I was like, I would love to just do it on my own terms. I have no experience. I literally had never managed anyone, but they kind of shared the same ethos, and they were like, we don't know what we're doing. You don't know what you're doing, but you know a little bit. So should we just like try it out? And so I decided to leave, and I was really lucky that I had quite a few different companies, come and have conversations with me about bringing that band to their label or that management company. And I think ultimately I had just had this like burning feeling that, if I worked for myself, I do what I want under my own terms. And I was like, I'm young. If it fails, whatever, I'll just get another job. And I lived at home. I was 23, hence the dorky name. And yeah, I kind of felt like they were in the same headspace of if it fails, we'll just keep, the vocalist was a lawyer, the producer was doing something else. And yeah, we all had our own other kind of backup plans. So it came from just like, two friends having this like thing that was working, and they had a weird belief in me that I was like, you guys don't really even know me, but it's just gelling and it's working, and it happened very quickly. So yeah, and I, don't have a business degree. I've really struggled through the like bookkeeping, accounting, tax, legalities of that. I spent like, a long time working through those things, and still am working through those things. But I think just having a pretty clear vision for what I wanted was enough to kind of help me slowly piece it together.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of support and help as well.
It's mad. That is really cool. Like the whole passion is the driving factor. Even if like you meet people along the way of your journey, like you can make it work.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I'll say is I recently got a business coach, and it was so, I didn't even know that existed. And it's this man who's just so lovely, but he works with like $billion companies that are not in music, and I'm kind of this like weird anomaly. But he was like, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't really know what I'm doing, and the finances are a mess. And he was like, Melody, no one starts a career because they want to some people probably do, but because they want to know how to have the right company structure and this and this and this. Like they're starting with the idea or the vision, and there are other people that can help with that. So, that was a relief to have someone say that out loud, because I was like, I always knew what I wanted, never had any plan on how to get there. And yeah, I took a business class in year 11 and 12. And that's like as far as I knew, and I don't remember a single thing.
You certainly did more than I did. I don't remember much of my high school experience. We've also just got a question about, obviously last year and even progressing into this year, there's been a lot of unsurety or like things popping up to do with the music industry. For example, like COVID-19, the pandemic, it just kind of...
Oh, that little thing,
yeah. Yeah, it just tosses back in my mind. How do you envision, the future of music and just the industry looking, especially for young people wanting to, progress or even start out in this industry? Because I feel like there's a misconception that because of COVID that it's kind of like a bit of a limited industry. But personally, I think there's been so much innovation with COVID and how much people actually, being creative with what they're doing. But I'd love to hear your opinions on that.
Yeah, sure. As a business in the music industry, it was surprising that I was very, very lucky that there was more people releasing than ever. And, you can't tour, so, you can release, you can record at home, you can be really resourceful. So that was a really nice surprise, and, kind of adds on to what you were saying, like there was so many different opportunities to be more creative, more resourceful, kind of figure out exactly what you do need and you don't need. Because I think people probably also have worked in the past with like such luxurious scenarios or equipment or resources that they think is necessary, but then when it boils down to it, you don't really actually need a lot of those things. And also just gives you the opportunity to think about other types of content that can supplement your career as well. Like even TikTok, obviously, I can't say that I don't really know anything about it. I love being on it. And
yeah, like are you a lurker? Like you?
Yeah. I've attempted some posts, and honestly, like the other day, I had this idea in the car, and my boyfriend was like, I don't know, it's not that interesting. And I was like, it's a good tweet, but it's not a good TikTok, and it doesn't work the same. But anyway, so many careers have been able to be launched off the back of that, and it's also incredible to see, like, I don't know if you've seen the examples of someone singing something and then someone else stitching something else on, and collaboration is like, it's opened it up to so many more collaborators than ever. Like we had the internet, but now we have like this platform that's really like direct and person to person, and anyone can see it, and it's kind of making those ties a lot stronger. But yeah, I think, in saying that, it definitely, music took a massive hit, and touring and companies had to downsize. But it's always going to be there. It's always going to grow. But I think, yeah, just the way that the Australian government prioritises the arts is probably makes it seem more challenging because that support isn't really there. But yeah, you'd be surprised just how resourceful you can be, and people still want to listen to music. People are streaming more than ever. I know there was a big dip in that during the pandemic, but things are kind of getting back to normal, and music never dies.
Stand the test of time. No, that's super reassuring for young people wanting to go into the music industry, because it's, hearing it from someone like yourself that's
it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's okay.
It's so reassuring. Awesome. We actually have a question from Lil, and she has just given a bit of context about herself. She's an inspiring artist manager, and she's taken up the role of being the manager to her artist friend at the moment. She's 19, and she feels like she can't be taken seriously because of her lack of experience in the industry. And she looks at these established artist managers and wonders how she can get to be like them. Her question to you is, do you have any tips to develop your confidence and trust in your steps in the very beginning of your career?
Give me a call, Lil. Feel free to reach out to me. But I think we've kind of probably touched on a lot of these things, but reaching out to people, if you look at these, developed artist managers, they had their start. So ask them what they did. People love to talk about it and be recognized. But I don't think you should shy away from just having conversations with people, but also, I guess, I'm trying to think. Someone gave me this. I was actually talking to Adele's manager once.
Wow.
And I was talking to him just as I was trying to decide whether to start my own company or not. And I was like, well, here are the options, and there's this management company and this label, but also here's my current job. And he was like, and I don't know if this will make sense to anyone, but he's like, you don't know how to manage an artist that gets a perfume deal until it happens, and then you figure it out, and then you go no one is as it's really hard to explain this. I've tried to explain to other people, but anyway, I guess it's just like you don't know what you know until you start doing it and experiencing it, and you'll really quickly make some mistakes. You just have to keep trying. Being taken seriously is very hard, especially as a female, especially as a young person. And I can definitely, unfortunately, say that is something that I experience really regularly. I've got a business that I've established, but people still call me a freelance publicist. I've, managed artists and made them money and, allowed them to be full-time artists, but still get called, someone called me a naive kid last week. So it's
frustrating.
It's frustrating. And I think the best thing you can really do is just to focus on what that artist wants, help them kind of work their vision out. And if it's working, people will come to you as well, but use the resources around you, Music New South Wales. I'm not sure where Lil's based, but there are so many different good state, state government kind of bodies that have really great resources. But reach out to these managers, reach out to artists, just ask questions, but also just go for it. People aren't going to believe in you until they want something from you, and then they're going to back you. But how genuine that is, I don't really know. But if you have a strong relationship with your artist and you have a clear goal, then just keep moving forward, and you'll the experience will come. The perfume deals will come, and you'll figure out how to deal with them as well. But just take it one step at a time and just trust in yourself. And it sounds so cheesy, but if it wasn't for just trusting my own vision and trusting my gut, I don't think I would be, running this business and doing what I'm doing as well. But it's tricky being a girl out there.
Yeah.
So I understand.
That's awesome stuff. I'm sure Lillian's cheering.
But you should honestly email me as well. I'd be happy to share any advice.
There you go. Awesome. And I think we're going to start to wrap it up, but I've got a couple just little fun questions that we ask, some of our guests. And then a bit more like fun. I said fun already.
Yes.
Fun questions, yes.
Yeah, very good.
More fun. What is some advice you'd tell your 18-year-old self?
Don't work for free. It's never worth it.
Good advice. Yeah. Solid. I like that. And if money wasn't an object, what would you do?
I mean, it's hard making money in the music industry anyway, but I think in another life I'd love to be like physio or just a massage therapist or something. I just love that kind of stuff.
That's super interesting.
I was thinking the other day, like I had a massage and I was waiting for the person to come in. I just thought, no one ever is like disappointed to get a massage. It's like the highlight of their day. Imagine just, walking into a room and the other person's just so excited to see you. And then you go home and you don't have to take home, work home with you or anything like that. So I'd be a massage therapist.
That is actually probably the most interesting answer I've heard to that question. That is insane. Would you have like your own massage business?
Watch this space. Honestly, I feel like I will do it in my lifetime, but yeah.
Love that.
Maybe like a takeaway table and I'll come to your house and I'll do it for you.
Love it.
Just got to actually learn how to do it properly and then we're talking.
But Good stuff. All right. Thank you so much, Melody, for stopping by and having a chat about the music industry and your role within it, but also the careers that are prevalent in, the industry today for young people as well. It's been a great chat.
Pleasure. Hopefully it was helpful.
It was very helpful, trust me. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us at the U13 Expo.